Sheviit, Perek Chet, Mishnah Vav, 6th Mishnah of the 8th chapter of Sheviit. We have a problem. Well, we always have a problem, but we have a specific problem. Let's going to go back to the psukim with which we always return to that describe the mitzvah of Sheviit. Okay, we've learned a number of times. That means many number of times that the Torah says, "V'hayta Shabbat haaretz lachem leochla." It's for you to eat. Everybody should eat from the land. Okay, but there's only one problem. The problem is it says the following. The pasuk before it says, "Et sefiach kitzircha lo tiktzor, v'et inzvei nizirecha lo tivtzor." The sefiach, the vegetables of your kitzir, of your produce, you cannot cut, i.e. you don't harvest the produce. But invei nizirecha lo tivtzor, and don't harvest the grapes. So how in the world, if I'm not supposed to harvest the grapes or cut down the produce, how am I supposed to have Shabbat ha'aretz lachem le'ochla? How do I do that? The answer, of course, is what the Torah means is not that I can't do it, lo tivtzor and lo tiktzor, but when the Midrash learns out, what it means is lo tiktzor kiderech hamekatzrim. You're not supposed to cut it down in the normal way. V'lo tivtzor, you're not supposed to harvest the grapes in their normal way as well. We see this, the Rambam in his Perush Mishnayot for our Mishnah says the following. He says this after we learn the Mishnah, but I'm going to give you as an introduction. The idea of all of this is you have to make a shinuy, a change. You don't engage with the fruit of Sheviit the way you do with the rest of the years. Because God says, remember that pasuk we just learned. Don't harvest. You can't say it can't mean, the Rambam says, that it prohibits the harvesting of grapes totally. The Torah permitted the eating of the grapes because he says you're supposed to eat them. It only means here, you should not harvest the way the harvesters harvested. And with that in mind, we'll understand what our Mishnah is trying to say. Now with that introduction, we can understand the rules that are transmitted, conveyed in our Mishnah. Says the Mishnah, Teinim shel Sheviit, if I have figs of Sheviit, and kotzim otam b'muktzeh, kotzim means to cut them, b'muktzeh, we're going to see what this means, this is a machloket. Aval kotzeh otam b'charba. So let's just read, we'll first read the interpretation of the Bartanura, and then I'll share with you what the Kahati says. And kotzim otam b'muktzeh, he says, kotzim, when they would harvest the figs, they would pierce them, and then they would leave them to dry. So he says, muktzeh was a kli amiyuchad lakotz bo te'inim. It is a special utensil that they used in order to pierce the te'inim, the figs. Karui muktzeh. So that's a muktzeh. So you can't kotzimotam. You don't cut them. You don't pierce them with this muktzeh, with this special fig piercer. Avakotzeotam becharba. But you can pierce them with a charba, with a regular sakin. Lashon cherev. Okay, then a problem. Okay, and the reason he says is because it says, this is the Bartanura says, et invein nizirecha lo tivtzor. Remember we said, we had this pasuk, you should not harvest your grapes. Kederech habotzri. We don't do it in the way that they're supposed to do it. The Tosafot Yom Tov says, hakavana kedei lishanot. You have to do a shinuy, and that's exactly what we saw. V'lo yitasek beperot shvi'it, and you should not engage in perot shvi'it like mitaskim b'shar hashanim. And he quotes that from the Rambam. So that we see that this is exactly the idea. You don't cut it with your special fig, with that special fig piercer, but you do cut them with a chorba, with a knife. And the problem, of course, with that interpretation is, what in the world, why would you call it a chorba, a knife? Say sakin. The Mishnah knows what a sakin is. So, therefore, the Kahati quotes other interpretations that explain the following. He says a katzeh, okay, I think he says this is what the Rambam says. Let's see if I can find where the Rambam says it. Okay. Muktzeh. Oh yeah, the Rambam does say it. Let me see if I can get to say you can see it. This is the Bartanura, the online Barilan. Okay. It's a little hard to see. Let's move this out of the way. Here we go. Yeah, here we go. Let me move me. Okay. Just for a minute. Muktzeh is, the Rambam says, Shema makom sheshotchin haperot li'ityabesh. It's the place where they spread out the fruits to dry. Kigonei ta'inim ba'anavim, like figs or dried grapes, i.e. raisins. Churba al-kiraba. So what is al-kiraba? Churba is a makom charev. It's a place like like on the roof or something, on the rooftop. So the Rambam says what it really means. oops, I shouldn't have done that. When the Rambam says, what it really means is that you can't dry them in the normal place, like they had a special drying, a fig drying machine. Rather, instead, they would, you should dry them in the chorba, out in the open. So either way, whether you say it's a special fig piercing utensil, or it's a kotzin b'mukseh, it's a drying agent, the idea is obviously the same. That you're not allowed to, harvest it in the normal way, but with a shinuy, in a different way, because it's peiruot Sheviit. Similarly, you're not allowed to lidroch, means to step on, to crush with your feet, grapes in the gat, in the wine press. Ariva, with these huge baskets that they would use in order to collect the grapes. I guess they were waterproof. So you do it in a different way again, in the ariva, in the basket. Okay? He says ariva is a basket shalashim ba'et isad that they would use to knead the dough. Ve'en osim zeitim bibad ubekotev. You don't make zeitim. You can't press the olives in the bad, in the olive press, ubekotev. So the Bartanura says kotev is the eitz gadol v'kaved, very big, long branch or beam. Uberosho Evan Gedolah had a very large stone on it. Shnotnim al zeitim bebeit habad, that they would place on the olives in the beit habad, in the olive press. So fortunately, we have Wikipedia, okay, and they have a beit habad. If you've ever been to an ancient beit habad, you'll notice they had a place where they had this. This is the koreh, okay, this is the long beam, and then they would put these great huge stone weights on it, and right around here, they would put right over here is where they would place these baskets that were crushable, that were filled with zaitim. And then as the weight would weigh down, the olive oil would crush, the olives would then seep through, and the water and the oils would go down. So here's this is a side view. This is the koreh, okay, and here the weight obviously would use the power of the lever, and it would push down on these baskets that were filled with olives, and the oil would then go into the olive oil press, and that's how they would press oil. So it says our Mishnah, you can't do it normally in the bibad with a press, ubekotev, and with that long beam. There are other interpretations for kotev, we'll leave them for now. Aval koteshu, but he can cross them himself, umachnis lebodida. A bodida, Bartanura says, beit bad katan kein ariva, a very small, small personal olive press. Rabbi Shimon says, af tochenu bebeit habad, umachnis lebodida. Well, the first part of the process of olives is you got to grind them a little bit. You got to get them started. You can't just crush them. You grind them, and then you put them in the beit bad. So he says you can grind them in the beit bad, and then you have to put it into the bodida, into the small bodida, in order to finish the pressing of the olives. Either way, what we learn from here, here obviously, is this rule that when you're dealing with produce, when you're harvesting and dealing with produce of Sheviit, you have to do it in a shinuy. You have to do so in a different way than normally is done, and not the way that the normal harvest is accomplished. We'll stop here. If you have any comments or questions, as always, feel free to contact me at rspolter@gmail.com, and we'll dedicate the learning to the memory of my father, Rav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. Have a great day.